Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, silent thinkers. This is L3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Sunday, July 16th, 2017. Yeah, it's been a week I haven't done a show. It's just been working class, like everyone else. Gotta make a living. Like I can't get any donations, but you know what? It's okay. It's in my blood. But if you want to be a patron accountant or supporter, you hit patreon.com/LokiLuck3, which is 3 eyes all together. And I will post that on my, it will be posted and all that good stuff. So, all right. Well, first of all, I am at CJ's Travel Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue along the New River of Fort Lauderdale. Cool folks, small mom and pop place, pet friendly, once again. And it's along the southwest section of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Got some folks hanging out. Pretty cool. So right now they close early on Sundays through Thursdays at 5 and Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. unless they have a special event. Hit the Facebook page and type in CJ's Java Lounge for more information. All right, so I just decided to browse through on what is happening. So, I'm just going to wing it here. And this came from Activist Post. And originally came from nothing else. Okay, this is like originally from Activist Post, and a bunch of good amount of it's like you could say technocratic related. So, and this one here is entitled DHS outlines mandatory biometric ID at airports for foreign travel. It's by Nicholas West. It says here, what at first seems like a creepy tiptoe incrementalism toward the use of biometric ID for travel is quickly becoming a warp speed reality. Over the past couple of months, I've been covering some disturbing developments at national airports that seem to show an acceleration of the plan to use biometric identification in a variety of ways. Yes, I will feel protected. Woo! And it says here, over the past couple of months, I've seen covering some... On May 19th, I reported a new program initiated by Delta Airlines at Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport to have automated baggage kiosks for priority customers that will first scan a traveler's passport. Then they're faced an order to match identity to check luggage. It was promoted as a pilot program that Delta launched to seek customer feedback in the hope that it could be rolled out more widely in the future. This announcement was followed by JetBlue, who stated that they will test facial and fingerprint recognition technology at 2 U.S. airports to replace boarding passes, building on industry efforts to increase security and ease passage through airports. Does that make us feel safe? It's like a wet dream here. Like I'm reading Alice in Wonderland, right? However, these stories were nothing compared to what followed on June 20th when U.S. Customs and Border Protection announced that they would integrate government databases with a private company to speed up biometric processes. JetBlue is working with U.S. Customs and Border Protection and SITA, an information technology provider for airlines. This is the first integration of biometric authorization by the CBP with an airline and may prove to be a solution that will be quick and easy to roll out across U.S. airports. Jim Peters, SITA's chief technology officer, said in the statement, "It's a plan that has been in making for 15 years, but is now coming to fruition." In an article, CBP will implement long-mandated biometric exit at airports, officials say. We discovered the hurdles that needed to be overcome and why we most likely are witnessing intensified media coverage at this moment. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is finally addressing the 15-year-old plus legislative mandate to check the identity of departing foreign visitors using biometrics. CBP Deputy Executive Assistant Commissioner John Wagner this Thursday Wagner said the goal will be accomplished by making use of existing data collection, the latest facial recognition, and cloud computing. He acknowledged there would be privacy issues, particularly because the facial recognition technology will capture images of U.S. citizens as part of the overall process. Hooray! We're out of time. We're out of excuses, Wagner said. Oh, really? With this part, with that as the big backdrop, if one weren't already alarmed by this trend, DHS is now laying out a clear plan for mandatory face scans for all travelers to foreign destinations, stating the only way for the individual to ensure he or she is not subject to collection of biometric information when traveling internationally is to refrain from traveling. That's right. No opt-out, just stay home. I need a hero. I need a hero to show me how to wipe my butt. That's right. The nanny expert will tell the airline industry we know better than you how to create revenue. The full 18-page DHS document is posted below, also available at the bottom of this page at Tech Dirt. And there is a thing on there, Tech Dirt as well. Okay, so I am going to be talking about that. Naturally, DHS is giving assurance that scans of U.S. citizens would be retained, but ready through the following doublespeak should render that notion laughable. John Wagner, the Customs Deputy Executive Assistant Commissioner in charge of the program, confirmed in an interview that U.S. citizens departing on international flights will submit to face scans. Wagner says the agency has no plan to retain the biometric data of U.S. citizens and will delete all scans of them within 14 days. However, Wagner doesn't rule out CBP keeping them in the future after going through appropriate privacy reviews and approvals. All talk, no action. This should only be reviewed at the next stage of incrementalism before biometric ID will be required for domestic travel as well. And as we've seen with the TSA, airports may not be the final destination. People are being transformed into digital organisms, made easier for scanning and processing. The political will is there, the database exists, and the technology is clearly being rolled out across every meaningful area of human activity. So dumb down, do-lang, do-lang. Government protect me, do-lang, do-lang. I pull down my pants. I'll be your Uncle Tom. That's right. They want us to be dumb, stagnant, happy. Instead of being natural-born human beings, they think you're a number and don't know anything. This is how weak and pathetic and blasphemous the TSA really is. And, of course, John Wagner himself. Oh, yeah, I'm just another bend-over Bob, but I could have my power over you. That's right, because you know why? This is how they think. They have a control fetish. They probably can't take care of their own problems at home, so they want to bring it out on you. A form of repressive hatred towards every single individual in this planet. Should he be a true American hero, a patriot? No. So, I want to continue on here with this 18-page document. Not really, I don't know about that, but we'll just hit the Tech Dirt because this came out yesterday as well. Says here, DHS goes biometric, says travelers can opt out of face scans by not traveling. DHS has decided air travel is unsafe thing of all in the wake of multiple fear-mongering presidential directives, including a travel ban currently being contested in federal courts. The DHS has introduced several measures meant to keep flying safer, but in reality would only make flying more of a pain in the ass. The government has argued in court that flying is a privilege, not a right. But they think they could take over the free market, right? Neo-mercantilism 101. And the DHS seems hell-bent on making flyers pay for every bit of that privilege. We've seen laptop bans introduced as a stick to push foreign airports to engage in more security theater, and the threat to rifle through all travelers' books, papers, and ensure nobody's reading explosive devices. I should just go in there real smelly and deplorable, make sure I wouldn't even watch my crotch For 7 days, when they pat me down, I want to feel that odor, make them smell and suffer. If they get sick, too bad. Now the DHS is going to be scanning everyone's faces as they board disembark international flights. The Department of Homeland Security says its only way to successfully expand a program that tracks non-immigrant foreigners that they have been required by law since 2004 to submit to biometric identity scans, but to date have only had their fingerprints and photos collected prior to entry. Yeah, I remember reading it at WorldNet Daily around 2000, a little after 9/11. Could we say coincidence? Now, DHS is finally ready to implement face scans on departure, aimed mainly at better tracking visa overstays, but also at tightening security. DHS swears it will be retaining scans of won't be retaining face scans of U.S. persons, but apparently never considered limiting the collection to foreign travelers. You're gonna buy that garbage? Come on! Oh yeah, those pants look great, but it looks like crap on you. But it looks so exquisite. Instead, the DHS will collect them all and supposedly toss out U.S. citizen scans later. Yeah, assumption. How sumptuous is that, right? John Wagner, the Customs Deputy Executive Assistant Commissioner in charge of the program, confirmed in an interview that U.S. citizens departing on international flights will submit to face scans. Wagner says the agency has no plan to retain the biometric data of U.S. citizens and will delete all scans of them within 14 days. This sounds good other than the collect them approach, but Wagner's not done talking. The DHS is obviously hoping to make sure of U.S. person scans at some point. However, Wagner doesn't rule out CBD keeping them in the future after going through the appropriate privacy reviews and approvals. This makes the promise of a 14-day deletion periods dubious. The DHS would seemingly prefer to keep everything it collects. So this deletion promises may morph into data segregation, with the government keeping domestic scans in their own silo for possible use later. The program is already being deployed at a handful of major airports. During the trial, when passengers will be able to opt out of their collection, but the DHS's own privacy impact assessment makes it clear it won't be optional for long. And you can look that up, too, if you want to see for yourselves. All right, to be exact. And the privacy risk, there's a risk. Yeah, it's a PDF format. Folks, just look this yourself. And it says here, privacy risk, and whoops. Oh, it's right there. Homeland Security. There is a risk to an individual participation because individuals may be denied boarding if they refuse to submit biometric identity verification under the TVS mitigation. This privacy risk is partially mitigated, although the redress and access procedures above for an individual's ability to correct his or her information. The only way for an individual to ensure he or she is not subject to collection of biometric information when traveling internationally is to refrain from traveling. So if you don't do it, you can't travel out of the country because they are smarter than you. They are Department of Homeland Security, where they pull down their pants to get in there, and if you're a dropout or an illiterate, you'll be hired a lot quicker. The opt-out is to not travel, considering this affect international flights. The DHS has a very good chance of achieving 100% compliance, but there are other percentages to be considered about, like accuracy. DHS has a 96 accuracy requirement for face scanning tech, but oddly not for its TSA employees. But its privacy impact awareness report doesn't actually say whether vendors have been able to hit that mark. In practical terms, what's being deployed could be as well under that percentage. Considering the number of things that need to go right to obtain the useful face scan, the error rate could be far above 4% once less than ideal capture conditions are factored in. Whatever privacy assurances are being given now, accept them to be whittled down in the future, especially if the government continues to engage in reactionary, fear-based lawmaking, with the exception some post-Snowden surveillance reforms. The government desires to collect database full of U.S. persons info has only steadily increased since September 11th, 2001. And of course, you can read this yourselves on the whole privacy assessment update. And this is really cute, abstract overview, the Legal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act. I like the overview. Authorize an automated system to record arrivals and departures of non-U.S. citizens at all air, sea, and land ports of entry. The 2002 Enhanced Border Security and Visa Entry Reform Act, the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004. And the implementing recommendations of the 9/11 Commission Act of 2007 all call for the creation of a nationwide biometric entry-exit system. Although biometric screening on entry has been placed since 2004, CBP has continued to develop and test various systems and processes to identify a method for comprehensive biometric exit screenings, including the creation of exit records for all individuals, regardless of citizenship, departing the United States since being tasked with the biometric exit mission in 2013. CBP has been fully committed to developing and testing new processes and capabilities for biometrically recording persons leaving the United States. Through the use of facial recognition technology, the Consolidated Appropriation Act of 2016 authorized CBP to expend up to $1 billion in certain visa surcharges collected over the next 10 years for biometric entry and exit implementation. Executive Order 13,780, protecting the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States, required DHS to expedite the completion and the implementation of biometric entry exit tracking system for the scope of travelers to the United States. Yeah, so they'll give you all this information, what they want to do, their variation pilots, and all that good stuff. So they can make us feel very safe. The airports can't do it, but they think they can't do it because Homeland Security said so. However, they can tell them, you're going to do this, this, and this. We'll teach the airline industry how to clean their own crotch. Homeland Insecurity, to be exact. That's how I see it. It is 18 pages long. You go a little bit further. It came out June 12, 2011. And this is very blasphemous as well when you really look at this, because the truth of the matter is, my friends, the war on terror is a war on the people, United States and beyond. 9/11 is an excuse, 24/7 excuse for everything. If you still believe that they attacked us on 9/11 because of our freedoms, you need a good smack upside the head. Or someone tells you that, deliberately punch them in the mouth with love. Out of love. All right? This is how far these vultures want to go. You don't want you to be dumb, stagnant, and happy, and have you worry about Donald Trump and his son on connecting with Russia. This is what the Commie News Network don't want you to know. And these other mainstream, lamestream news sites. That's why, to me, all that's a waste of energy. This is more essential for every single one of us that live on this planet, including the people within the United States, because it is, we live here. But you're going to go, okay, boss, I live free, but I'm still a peasant. I don't believe in that. This is why I have an attitude towards this technocratic society, this plantation. Okay, this is not just a race thing anymore. It's not just about one person's skin color. It's every single one of us, and it's being enhanced. Something to really contemplate, my friends. Another dangerous motive trying to sell you something that is treasonous. Yes. I didn't stutter either. All right, speaking of DHS, there's another one that came out here. A few of it here is like from Tech Dirt. So here's another one here. came out yesterday as well. It says here, DHS, CBP admits they have no legal authority to access American social media accounts. And since from the CBP reminder of this 2 months after Wyden's letter department. Since at least 2009, DHS has asserted a legal right to copy search the contents of anyone's electronic devices at the border. Its privacy assessment said no one has much privacy, at least not near U.S. borders. Building on years of judicial national security deferences, the DHS has recently expanded its searches of electronic devices, eliminating most of its adherence to the Fourth Amendment in the process. If your device is wandering to a country's constitution-free zone, you can expect to suffer diminished expectations of privacy. See, I don't believe in constitution-free zones. They can stick it where the sun don't shine. My rights are natural born, plain and simple. And yours as well. Nothing that brought border searches of electronic devices were increasingly exponentially more searches in February 2001 alone than in all of 2015. Senator Ron Wyden did two things: introduced a bill creating a warrant requirement for border electronic device searches and asked the CBP, Customs and Border Protections, about its new demands for social media email accounts passwords. The DHS has responded to Wyden's questions, and the answers are a bit surprising. U.S. border officers aren't allowed to look at any data stored in the cloud, including social media data. When they search U.S. travelers' phones, Customs and Border Protection acknowledged a letter obtained Wednesday by the NBC News. The letter is in PDF form and sent in response to the inquiries by Senator Wyden, Democrat from Oregon, and verified by Wyden's office. Not only states that CBP doesn't search data stored only with remote cloud services, but also apparently for the first time declares that it doesn't have the authority in the first place. This admission about lack of legal authority contradicts the assertion made in this 2009 Privacy Impact Assessment, which placed CBP agents hunches above anything resembling reasonable suspicion or probable cause. But the answers aren't quite as clear-cut as it might appear from the NBC News summation. With or without legal authority, the CBP is still performing searches of thousands of devices. Returning U.S. citizens aren't exempted from these searches. They are often free to go, even if their device might need to be left behind so the CBP can copy the device's contents. This may be done without reasonable suspicion because, as the letter puts, any device might hold evidence of criminal activity, terrorism, smuggling, and child porn are specifically named. The CBP cannot do, at least according to this letter, it retrieves information and data not stored on the phone itself, but this would only prevent CBP officers from accessing cloud-based storage. Much of the information contained in email, social media accounts is not stored locally. But there is no practical way to separate local cloud data when officers have access to the entire device. The letter appears to indicate officers need to restrict their searches to SMS messages, call logs, and photos stored on the device. How this operates in practice is another matter. The letter states CBP cannot demand passwords pins from American travelers, but points out this may result in the electronic being detained indefinitely, even as citizens themselves are free to go. Can we say seizures? Yay! Idi Amin Dada will be extremely proud. It says CBP officers have been instructed to stay away from social media and email accounts, but the April 2017 reminder appears to be a direct result of Wyden's probing questions, which were sent to the DHS at the end of February. What the CBP was doing before the senator start asking questions is anyone's guess, but answer the total evidence suggests CBP is treating U.S. citizens as badly as it does foreign visitors. What isn't in the letter in direct response to Wyden's questions about the number of U.S. citizens subjected to these intrusive searches, the DHS claims not to have this information on hand, but has promised to turn over some data later this year. In the meantime, American citizens are receiving only slightly better treatment than arriving foreigners. Assertion of rights on the border will often be taken as unprompted admission of guilt. While the CBP may not have a legal basis to demand access to social media accounts, it does appear its demand for access for people's phones isn't stifled by many legal hurdles. Considering most phones, laptops contain social media account information, it is up to Americans to believe that CBP isn't accessing data it has been told to stay away from. This came out on June 20th. It's 5 pages long. And, you can you can check this out yourself. This is, a turnoff, I would say. And I don't, that's when it comes to government, my friends, you never trust these bastards, okay? They're like vultures, man. Psychic vampires. Yes, I can say that. I don't give a damn what they think. Talk about citizenship and baggage and all that. Yeah, definitely. It's 5 pages long. You can read it yourself. But, like I said, the road to technocracy to make us feel safe once again. All right. Well, next one here. Interesting. It says here, all out of ideas. Legacy news providers ask the U.S. government for the right to collude against Google and Facebook. About a month ago, BuzzFeed founder and CEO Jonah Peretti summed up my feelings about watching old news media organizations running around everywhere, blaming Google and Facebook for their own failure to innovate. A lot of traditional media players are optimistically attacking Facebook and Google because Facebook and Google have figured out a better model for delivering information and entertaining people, which is real-time, personalized, shareable, and global. All these things that you cannot do in broadcast and print, he says. These traditional media companies have had decades of massive cash flow, and they decided to stockpile that. Instead of investing in digital, they just keep managing, earning on their traditional businesses, even though we have known for 20 plus years that the internet was going to be a big thing, and now all these things have unfolded. With some promises, but in a way that was not hard to predict. Now we are at a point where Facebook's and Google revenues are starting to be a substantial portion of the pie. They're attacking them, saying it is unfair. The truth is that Facebook and Google have always taken a long-term perspective, so has Netflix, so has Amazon. The internet would win out in the end. A lot of big media companies always took quarter-to-quarter perspective, a maximized earning perspective, and that has resulted them in being in a tough position, and so they attack Facebook and Google because of it. This is more or less what we've been arguing for nearly 2 decades. There are tons of opportunities for these companies if they actually embrace digital. But they did so in drips and drabs and often stupidly chasing fads rather than actually figuring out how to deliver content that people actually wanted in a way they wanted to. So for the past few years, they focused on whining about how it's so gosh darn unfair under that companies who did figure out Google and Facebook are making lots of money. And now those legacy firms are seeking a nuclear option. The New Media Alliance, formerly the Newspaper Association of America, has spent the last few years pushing bad idea after bad idea to try to save the news organizations that failed to actually innovate. For example, asking Trump to whittle away fair use. We mocked the fair use proposal as complete nonsense, but in order to make it happen, the New Media Alliance is asking the government for a special exception to antitrust law to allow its members to collude against Google and Facebook and to generally make internet less interesting and more expensive. Right? Bunch of whiners. Today, the News Media Alliance, representing almost 2,000 news organizations, called on Congress to allow publishers to negotiate collectively with dominant online platforms. The objective is to permit publishers to have concrete discussions with 2 dominant distributors of online news content, Google and Facebook, on best business model solutions to secure the long-term availability of local journalism produced by America's newsroom. Supposedly, there are 3 goals here. There's the boat. to get greater copyright control over news and to create snippet tax to force Google and Facebook to work with news organizations on some sort of subscription program and to get a fair share of revenue and user data. None of these make much sense. As Matt Shores at the Disruptive Competition Project points out, all three of these goals have issues. Let's consider those three objectives: IP protection, subscription, and fair share of revenue and data. First, news publishers do not need an antitrust exemption to lobby for more IP protection. Federal law already allows it. As I've noted before, News Corp is already quite fond of doing so. Second, Google and Facebook are already pursuing new strategies for supporting subscriptions. The NMA proposal, however, suggests a collective turn to subscription models, removing consumers' ability to choose among products with different models, including ad-supported ones. Individual newspapers should have the freedom to experiment, pursuing the model best suited to their business. Consumers are best served when they can choose between competing models. Third, Chadron wants a fair share of revenue and data. In pursuit of this, the NMA would make an end run around copyright laws, use doctrine, which permits the extend indexing of content so as to force digital services to pay for the privilege of sending traffic to their sites. As I discussed below, news publishers have tried this in Europe. It hasn't gone well. So, that's a wet dream, and they want to use the government involved. Can we say neo-mercantilism on the press? Some form of economic thing. Government, help me! We're getting our butts kicked in the information war. Give me sympathy, opus wine. Precisely. There are a lot of problems here as well. As Matthew Ingram pointed out, there is tremendous hubris in the NMA members thinking that they're the only ones producing quality journalism. This sense of entitlement is at the core of what NMA is proposing. In effect, it is suggesting that mainstream newspaper companies are the only entities capable of producing quality journalism, and therefore they deserve to get out of a jail-free card so they can engage in what amounts to collusion. And they are hoping Congress will see Google and Facebook as the enemy. Glamour man, I want the word revolve around me, glamour man. Exactly. Here's a thought. What if these newspaper companies had spent a little more time trying to compete over the past decade or so, instead of relying on their historic market control to keep their profits rolling in? What if more had tried to improve their websites and their mobile versions, so that users would install ad blockers to turn on to other solutions like Facebook Instant Articles? Every single competitive threat the newspaper industry has faced, from Craigslist to Facebook, has been visible long. It decimated the industry's profits, and most of the newspapers in NMA did little or nothing to deal with them until it was too late. Indeed, some more local news organizations has already pushing back against the NMA's plan. The Local Media Consortium, which admits some overlap with NMA members, points out that this whole thing seems like the wrong approach. First, Chadron's position ignores the LMC's work during the last 4 years. Forging partnerships is essential to us as providers of quality local content and local business solutions. Those partnerships align in the news industry, print, broadcast, and ultimately digital, which tech companies in a symbiotic relationship. The LMC has provided revenue opportunities for all levels of local media, and we've done that while leveraging our scales to garner both attention and respect of tech platforms. We have built partnerships based on shared value, not entitlement. Second, I am concerned about the mixed messages the NMA stance is creating within the industry and our own LMC membership. The NMA board includes several members of the LMC, and these board members may not be fully aware of our relationship with tech companies. Chavern's op-ed suggests a lack of knowledge of tens of millions of dollars our partnership with Google has netted the industry, or in the inroads we have made influencing innovation with Google, Facebook, Apple, and Yahoo. The LMC is looking at new tech and innovation as an opportunity. The NMA and on the other hand, seems to be looking it as the enemy. It's a fairly typical response for legacy industries who fail to adapt, then flail about widely against those who succeeded, but it's never good for consumers. Their reason we don't allow collusion to happen after all. Rafat Ali probably summed all of this up best. The only is on his Twitter page. The only collective bargaining that worked for publishers is asking Facebook, Google to shut down on weekends. Otherwise, consumers have spoken. Precisely, he's right. Look, I get it. Google and Facebook are big and successful, making lots of money, and because these news organizations fail to do much to adapt, or at best, made superficial embraces of digital, they are pissed and they blame Google and Facebook for their own failures. Not unlike the recording and film industries. But that misses the point. There is a reason why this happened, and we shouldn't have the U.S. government reward those who didn't innovate by taxing those who did. The end result would be bad for the public. It would be bad for innovation. And sure, I'm saying this is a news publication and that is concerned about Google and Facebook's power in the market, but it's on me to figure out how to adapt and leverage the benefits that platforms like this and others bring, not to go running to the government seeking to collude with others and to cement weak business models in place. Frankly, for companies seeking to blame others rather than their own failures, it's probably best that they go out of business sooner rather than later. The clear field for others who are willing to innovate and embrace technology rather than whine about it. You're right. Absolutely correct. But you know what? Those lamestream newspapers need to look in the mirror. And I remember the great song I heard from the Fenwicks. It's called Everyone But You. That came off the album Member of No Tribe. And I like what he says. Everyone's a fascist, everyone's a fraud, everyone's a phony, everyone's like you. I said, everyone but you. Everyone's complacent, everyone's naive, everyone's a monkey, everyone but you, everyone but you. And I'll just leave it at that. So, this is why it is really anti-First Amendment, anti-freedom of the press. What these newspapers are trying to do, run to the government and go, oh, we're getting our butts kicked in the information war. Please help us. They have this sweet poly purebred syndrome, calling for underdog for everything. Please, folks. And I'm not crazy about Facebook and Google. I admit that. But there's always good things to utilize, benefit. That's how I see it as well. The truth of the matter is, they should have thought long view rather than short time. So they chose poorly. No one else. They need to look in the mirror. They need to be fired for their stupidity. Don't collude. Repent for your carelessness and have lack of vision. All right. Next one here. After you came from... Ooh, sorry about that. Hit and Run blog came out on the 13th by Jacob Sellium. It says here, House advance bill that will expand the DEA's power to make legal highs illegal. That's what they have to say here. Yesterday, the House Judiciary Committee approved a bill that would expand the Attorney General's unilateral authority to ban psychoactive substances in a vain effort to keep up with the inventive underground chemists. To stop the importation and trafficking synthetic analogs Act of 2017, aka CISA Act, would create a new category under the Controlled Substance Act, CSA, as known as Schedule A, to facilitate administrative prohibition of new drugs that resemble with those laws other schedules. Bill introduced by John Katko, Republican from New York, in the House, H.R. 2851, and by Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, in the Senate, S. 1327. Both an alarming expansion of bureaucratic power and a vivid illustration of prohibition's absurdity. In theory, the drug that Katko and Grassley can't name but want to ban, synthetic opioids, stimulants, cannabinoids, and psychedelics, are already banned by the Controlled Substance Analog Enforcement Act, a law that has been in the books for more than 3 decades. The Analog Act criminalizes production and distribution of compounds that are structurally similar to controlled substances and have similar effects or are represented as having similar effects. But the Drug Enforcement Administration, under the Analog Act, is difficult. Prosecutors have to show a substance was intended for human consumption and the seller was aware of its structural and psychoactive similarity to ban the substance. Even worse, from the DEA's point of view, the prohibited status has given the analog that has to be reestablished in each case since it hinges of what the defendant knew and intended. As Demetria Ashley, the DEA's acting assistant administration for diversion control, noted in her testimony regarding the CISA Act, excuse me here. Oh, sorry about that. Each prosecution requires expert testimony to obtain the conviction. You have to say a substance was determined by a jury to meet the criteria of the analog definition in the prior case. Although this process is workable, Ashley said, there is a resource incentive for DEA federal prosecutors serving the United States Attorney's Office, the defense bar, and the court system. The Synthetic Drug Abuse Prevention Act of 2012 offered a partial solution to this problem, banning 26 cathinones, cannabinoids, and pathylamines by name. That law also includes a general ban on cannabinoid agents, defined as any substance that is a cannabinoid receptor type 1, CB1 receptor agonist, is demonstrated by binding studies and functional assays. It has been tweaked in one of the 5 specific ways. DEA has the authority delegated by the Attorney General to ban drugs without congressional action. Yeah, but please, we don't need Congress. We'll just do it ourselves. By Ashley's count, it has done so with 44 synthetic designer drugs since March 2011 to permanently schedule a drug. DEA is supposed to consider 8 factors and consult with the Department of Health and Human Services. These scheduling evaluations by both HHS and DEA required extensive collection and evaluation of scientific, medical, law enforcement, and other data. Ashley complains the acquisition of this data is often an endurance and time-consuming process. The public continues to be impacted adversely while this data is being obtained in support under the CSA. If the DEA administrators believe a substance poses an imminent hazard to public safety, that he can ban it temporarily while being in process for permanent scheduling, an aborted attempt to prohibit kratom illustrates the scientific standards for temporary ban are laughably lax in practice. In short, DEA already has a lot of power to target distributors of novel psychoactive substances, but as always, it wants more. The CISA Act addresses the DEA's complaints about burdens of due process by making a dealer guilty of distributing a Schedule A drug, a felony punishable up to 10 years in prison for a first offense, even if he did not know that he was selling. The scenario is hardly far-fetched in the market with where one drug, heroin, says may be mixed with another fentanyl analog says in a foreign country before a retainers obtain it, so that neither nor he or nor his customer knows exactly what's in that white powder. We believe that any criminal offense should be required a culpable mental state, says four conservative groups in a later opposing the SISTA Act. Nevertheless, H.R. 2851 would enact harsh penalties while ignoring the defendant's mens rea. Yeah. The SISTA Act addresses the DEA's complaint that scientists is hard by eliminating any need to consider when banning psychoactive substances, while the HHS is supposed to play an active role in scheduling decisions under current law. The SISTA Act relegates it to commenting on the order already prepared by the DEA. The bill replaced 8 current criteria for prohibition with 2, a chemical structure that's substantially similar to the chemical structure of a controlled substance, and 2, an actual or predicted stimulant, depressant, hallucinogenic effect on the central nervous system that is a substantial, similar, or greater than the stimulant, depressant, or hallucinogenic effect on the nervous system of a controlled substance. The temporary ban is easier. There is no need to claim an imminent hazard to public safety. The DEA only has to assert that the drug or other substance satisfies the criteria for being considered a Schedule A substance, and that adding such drug or substance to Schedule A will assist in preventing abuse or misuse of the drug or other substance. And instead of expiring after the maximum of 3 years, a temporary ban on a drug destined for Schedule A lasts 5 years. Why? Because 5 years is longer than 3 years. Duh. Explaining the need for yet another legislative attempt to conquer the ineradicable human desire to achieve altered state of consciousness, Grassley notes that the illegal drug traffickers and importers are able to circumvent the existing schedule regime by altering a single atom or molecule of a current controlled substance in a laboratory, thereby creating a substance that is lawful. Things would be so much easier for plotting prohibitionists like Grassley after they could simply announce that all psychoactive substances are banned, except for the ones on a list drawn by Congress. Instead, they are left to grope about in the dark, trying to ban things that have not been invented yet, based on their anticipated effect on the central nervous system. If it makes people feel good, Grassley figures it cannot be tolerated. The pharmacological tyranny is not just foolish, but positively pernicious because it drives people to more dangerous alternatives, a policy that encourages substitution of novel, untested, unlabeled substances for well-studied intoxicants that people have been using for decades, for centuries, is not a policy aimed at minimizing the harm caused by the drug use, nor is a policy that makes it impossible for a heroin user to know what he is injecting or an MDMA user to know what he is swallowing. Observing the injuries and deaths caused by the previous attempts to police the bloodstreams of Americans, bumbling busybodies like Grassley automatically respond by redoubling their efforts, this time for sure. Well, like I say this, my friends, no victim, no crime, and prohibition in the 20s did not work. So, who will benefit? Organized crime and corrupt governments. Please give me a break, Grassley, and your other lackey by the name of Catgo. Tweedledee and Tweedledum, I would say, all in good faith. So, you know what, my friends? Tell the feds to butt out. Go contaminate space somewhere else. Tired of these ass clowns. More nannies and heat. All right. Well, finally, speaking of all that, I'm going to read something here by Mike. Yeah, Mr. Michael McHarry. It came out today, believe it or not. It's entitled James Madison and the Necessary and Proper Clause. 10th Amendment Center. Necessary and proper ranks among the most abused clauses in the Constitution. It has been dubbed the Elastic Clause because of perception that it allows the scope of the federal government to expand. The federal government began abusing this clause within years of ratification. In 1800, James Madison countered these early abuses, forcefully arguing that it is not elastic at all and doesn't give the government any additional powers. The Necessary and Proper Clause simply states that Congress has the power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all the other powers vested by the Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department of officers thereof. Excuse me. During the ratification debates, any Federalists warned that the central government would abuse the clause to expand power, but supporters of the Constitution swore it would not. Even Alexander Hamilton argued that necessary and proper didn't add to the government's power. In Federalist Papers 33, Hamilton addressed both the necessary and proper clause, and they also abused supremacy clause. It may be affirmed with the perfect confidence that the constitutional operation of the intended criminal would be precisely the same if these clauses were entirely obliterated as if they were repeated in every article. They are only delectatory of truth, which would have resulted by necessary and unavoidable implication of the very act of constituting a federal government vesting with certain specific powers. It didn't take long for proponents of centralized federal power to turn to the necessary and proper clause to justify unconstitutional actions. In 1798, Congress passed the Alien and Seditions Act. The two acts relating to aliens gave the executive branch broad authority to deport non-citizens living in the U.S. without due process. Opponents argued that the Aliens Act violates the Fifth Amendment and unconstitutionally vested judicial powers in the hands of the president. The Seditions Act essentially outlawed criticism of the president and Congress. It was a clear violation of the First Amendment. Interesting. See, a little history lesson here, my friends. Among their arguments, supporters of the Alien and Seditions Act pointed out to the necessary and proper clause to justify the usurpation of power. James Madison took them to task in his report of 1800. The report was lengthy defense of Virginia resolutions of 1798. Madison drafted these solutions in response to the Alien Sedition Act. They asserted states have the right or the duty to bound to interpose when the federal government engages in deliberate, plausible, and dangerous exercise of undelegated powers. They also laid out a case of condemning the acts as unconstitutional. In the report of 1800, Madison addressed every justification by supporters of the Alien Sedition Act in exacting detail, including their appeal to the necessary and proper clause. Madison echoed what Hamilton had written years earlier, arguing that the clause does nothing to expand the powers of the general government. The plain import of this clause is that Congress shall have all the incidental or instrumental powers necessary and proper for carrying into execution all the express powers, whether they be vested in the government of the United States more collectively or in several departments or officers thereof. It does not grant new powers of Congress, but merely a declaration. For the removal of all uncertainty, that means of carrying into execution those otherwise granted are included in the grant. Madison went on to offer a two-step process to determine the constitutionality of any federal action. First, whenever there's a question arises concerning the constitutionality of a particular power, The first question is whether the power be expressed in the Constitution. If it be, the question is decided. If the delegated power exists authorizing the action that settles the issue, nobody argues that the federal government can run the post office. Article 1, Section 8 explicitly authorizes this, but we find no delegated power. Madison prescribed a second step. If the power be not expressed, the next inquiry must be whether it's properly an incident to express powers. It's then necessary to its execution. If be, it may be exercised by Congress. If be not, Congress cannot exercise it. In other words, the federal action is absolutely necessary to carry out power clearly spelled out in the Constitution, and it is proper or customary way of doing so. Then, as Madison put it, may be exercised by Congress, it may be not. Congress cannot exercise it. Legal documents delegating powers to an agent often contain a necessary and proper clause. It has a precise, specific legal definition that was well understood in the founding era. In simplest terms, a necessary and proper clause authorizes an agent to exercise powers not explicitly spelled out in the legal document, but necessary to execute the specific authority given to them. It serves as a kind of shorthand and eliminates the need to list every incidental power the agent can exercise. Imagine I enter into a contract with somebody to manage my grocery store. If it stipulates that she has all of the powers necessary and proper to run the grocery store, I don't have to specify that she has the authority to pay a guy to clean the floors, to hire a mechanic to fix a freezer when it goes down, or pay the Coca-Cola vendor. Those powers are proper and customary to run a grocery store, but necessary and proper powers would give my new manager authority to give away all the food items in my store and turn into a pornography shop. That would not be necessary, nor would it be proper. Judges and elected officials have expanded the meaning of necessary and proper far beyond its meanings. They have effectively turned into the anything and everything clause. Madison clearly argues that was not the intent. So he said he's right on the federal level. Article 1, Section 8, boom, plain and simple. And of course, the Virginia Resolution 1798 on states' rights. So you have to look at everything across the board, my friend, including illegal aliens. It's interesting. Due process. But now, let's ship them back! Build the wall! But when you become an empire, it runs amok. So Madison warns us about it. And I'm not too crazy about Alexander Hamilton. So some of his stuff is good, but I am not going to be a fan of his, period. So Madison had that foresight, and it should have been preserved. This is why balance, separation of powers is righteous. And that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media network. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting I may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondences with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, or Patreon.com/LookieLuck3 if you want to be a patron. Or you can email me at lookieluck3@gmail.com. In addition to your cryptotypes, LookieLuck03, they're both numbers, by the way, 0 and 3, at protonmail.com. All right, friends, I'm going to play a song. And the album just came out a couple days ago from a band called Bloodclot and Double J, John Joseph McGowan, the Krishna Irish lad from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Album came out on Metal Blade Records. I'm going to be playing a tune called Soldiers of the New Babylon. Stuff I can relate on the information war, okay? That's right. Enjoy it. And I will put that on my footnotes as well, okay? Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. May your guardian spirits be with you.
With